everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I would like to discuss about sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis is a what-if technique that managers use to estimate profit or loss result if selling price, cost, variable cost and fixed cost, volume or underlying assumption change. Sensitivity analysis allows managers to see how various business strategies will affect how much profit the company will make and empowers managers with better information for decision making. So, based on sensitivity analysis or the example for question what if techniques are being used. For example, what happened to profit if the sales price increased by 10%? B. How will profit change if sales volume decreased by 10%? C. What is the new break-even point in unit if variable costs decrease RM10? D. How will profit change if fixed costs increase RM20,000 for advertisement? So this is part of the question what if technique is being used for sensitivity analysis. I give you one example how to calculate for the changes in variable cost, fixed cost, or selling price. So this one we call sensitivity analysis. So we look at this question. Very manufacturing produce table lamps and the following are the operating data. Selling price RM20 per unit, variable cost RM16 per unit, fixed cost RM16,000. Calculate the break-even point in unit. And number 2, calculate break-even point in sales or RM. So this is the original data because we want to compare with the changes in variable cost, fixed cost, and selling price. So this is the original data. So now we calculate for contribution margin per unit, selling price 20 RM20 minus RM16 for variable cost per unit. So contribution margin per unit RM4. Now we have to calculate break-even point. The formula is fixed cost divided by unit contribution margin 16,000 divided by RM4. So break-even point in units are 4,000 units and break-even point in RM 4,000 units multiplied by RM20 for selling price per unit. So this is the answer for break-even point in RM 80,000. So this is the original data that we have to compare with the changes incurred. Okay, number 1, changes in variable cost. So this is the original data. Berry manufacturing produce table lamp and the following are the operating data. Selling price RM20 per unit, variable cost RM16 per unit, fixed cost RM16,000. The management decides to reduce variable cost per unit from RM16 to RM15. So it will reduce variable cost per unit because we want to see the changes in variable cost, what will happen to break-even point. So we have to calculate break-even point in units. And number 2, we have to calculate break-even point in sales or RM. Okay, the first step, we have to calculate contribution margin per unit. So this is the new contribution margin per unit. We are using the new variable cost per unit. So RM20 for selling price, deduct RM15 for variable cost per unit. So contribution margin per unit is RM5. Break-even point in unit. So the formula is fixed cost divided by contribution margin per unit. So fixed cost is 16,000. So as you know that the selling price and the fixed cost remain unchanged. So the variable cost per unit, we have to use the new variable cost per unit. So that we have to calculate and simplify. Then we get the answer for new break-even point is 3,200 units. And break-even point in RM, 3,200 units multiplied by RM20, you got RM64,000. So you can see the alternative. This is the break-even point for variable cost per unit 16, RM16. This one is old data. And you got the answer for break-even point in RM80,000. And for variable cost per unit for the new amount, RM15, then you got the break-even point in units is 3,200 units. And break-even point in RM, 64,000 ringgit. So you can compare the changes break-even point with old data and with the new data. We find out that break-even point reduced to 3,200 units. Now, we look at the changes in fixed cost. And we still use the same data where the selling price, the variable cost remain unchanged. RM20 per unit selling price and variable cost per unit RM16 per unit. So this amount remain unchanged. We just change for fixed cost. So the management considering a proposal to spend an additional RM5,000 on advertising. Calculate break-even point in units and number 2, break-even point in sales or RM. So we have to calculate new break-even point when there is a changes in fixed cost. So we have to add another RM5,000. So this is the answer. First, you have to calculate new fixed cost. So RM16,000 plus RM5,000 and we will get the new fixed cost RM21,000. And the new break-even point in units 21,000 ringgit divided by 20 ringgit less 16 ringgit and you get the new break-even point 5,250 units. So now we have to calculate break-even point in RM. So this is the new break-even point 5,250 units multiplied by RM20 for selling price and you got the break-even point total sales RM105,000. So we are using the new fixed cost. So we can make a comparison. Old fixed cost with break-even point 4,000 unit and break-even point in total sales RM80,000. And we look at the new alternative where there is the new fixed cost. We get the break-even point increase from 4,000 to 5,520 units and break-even point in total sales RM105,000. So, if they are applied for the new fixed cost, the company must sell more 5,520 to break even. Okay, the next changes in selling price. So we just change for selling price, variable cost and fixed cost remain the same. So the selling price, the old one, RM20 per unit, variable cost RM16 per unit, and fixed cost RM16,000. The company is considering a proposal to increase 10% of the selling price. Calculate the new break-even point in units and the break-even point in sales or RM. So, the first step, the company have to calculate the selling price, the new selling price. So, this is the calculation for new selling price. 20%, 20 RM20 plus RM20 times 10% or RM20 times 110%, and you will get the answer RM22 for new selling price. The next step, we have to calculate break-even point in units. So this is the fixed cost. The fixed cost and the variable cost remain unchanged. So 16,000 divided by 22 minus RM16, and you will get the break-even point is 2,667 units. And we have to calculate break-even point in sales or total sales. So 2,667 units times RM22, this is the new selling price, equals to RM58,674. So we can compare the old selling price with the new selling price. So when we calculate the break-even point in unit for old selling price, the break-even unit is 4,000 unit, and in total sales is RM80,000. But for new selling price 22, the break-even point in units is 2,667, and the break-even point for new selling price is RM58,674. It means that the company is easy to reach new break-even point, 2,667 units. And that's all for today. Thank you. Don't forget to watch my next video. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.